This is At the Extremes.
Beloveds, welcome back to At the Extremes, the podcast where we discuss the extremes in our society and how we got here. As always, we're your hosts. I'm Greg.
And I'm Sergio.
That's a lot of chanting for a guy who just got his ass handed to him in foosball.
But we discussed it. It not that there's ever an acceptable loser, but I got pounded a couple times, but I kept it. Your blood pressure was up, and I was cheering for you to have a stroke.
Actually, that's very true. He did wish a stroke upon me. Never had that wished upon me before, and I hope I don't die tonight, Sergio, of a stroke, and that will weigh heavy on your conscience.
It won't not, because we are not playing foosball, and that's the only time your blood pressure will raise that high.
Yeah, well, no, actually, I am predisposed to high blood pressure and hypertension, but
so cool, friend.
Oh boy, but yeah, no. So we are going to talk about the week that was. But before we get into it, Sergio, do you got a silver lining for us?
I do. So yesterday,
you've had me on tenterhooks the entire time. So.
We kind of I teased you a little bit.
You did?
When I came over, but I had the good boys over at Dynamic Cooling and Heating come over.
Big shout out.
Yes,
company
big shout out.
Sponsor?
Not yet. Ooh. I mean, we can try to work out a deal to see if they can do it.
Yep.
But John from Dynamic Cooling and Heating did a fantastic job putting a mini split system.
Ooh.
I was able to observe and do some helping out and doing everything I can to support him. And so, talking with John and in his company, he said, I really would like a shout out. So this is a shout out to Dynamic Cooling and Heating.
Hell yeah.
And if you use the code Bang Time Forever, you get a 75% discount on everything.
On any service.
Any kind of service.
Wow. Big shout out to Dynamic Cooling and Heating.
Great job, great service.
Fantastic.
John is great to work with. So check the show notes. I think they have a new website that
we'll put it in the links.
We'll put in the links.
Yeah, big ups.
Only for this episode though. We're going to need to start hearing not hearing, but seeing some royalty and royalty, but some checks.
Yeah. I mean, look, we are
nothing's free.
Ain't nothing free in this world. But no, we'll put the link in the show notes. So look for that at the end of the show when you finish giving us a 5-star rating. Well, that's awesome. So you put the mini split in, complete job's done. We're good to go.
Job's done. It was done in a day. Great service. Worked really, really hard. It was great weather outside, and just this company knows what they're doing. And so if you are in the greater Maryland, Delaware region, Dynamic's there for your services.
Fantastic.
Or Dynamic's there to service you.
Ooh. So ain't nothing. So our first little story that brought a lot of tears to my eyes is a little story that comes out of San Quentin. San Quentin's a prison.
Located
in California. So the story is the prison inmates there were training these service dogs, raising these service dogs to help people who need them in the community.
Another family dog.
Today is a really special day because Wendell and Artemis are the first 2 puppies that were brought into San Quentin and raised by the incarcerated people here. And today, those handlers get to meet the client that those dogs went on to be paired with as service dogs.
He just got a bat. Man, it's life-changing. We're incarcerated here inside state prison, being able to provide a service to people out there in the community and to give back in a huge way. So it's amazing. Seeing him in action and actually serving somebody in the community, it's just, I'm a loss for words right now.
So if you pause it just for a second.
Yeah.
You have this inmate that has teardrop tattoos on his face and tattoos all over his neck. If you saw him in a dark alley, you would probably...
You're running. I'm running.
Not, and you're a big guy.
Yeah, and I'm not hanging around.
And this guy is showing so much pride. And I will have a few 2 cents to say after this.
And And San Quentin has been quite a catalyst for us. In the state of California and across the country, we've increased to 13 more prison programs in the last year because the event here last year got so many people excited about the power of this program. So we're really grateful to San Quentin.
So they're just showing off like the graduating dogs and blah, blah, blah. The dogs are going to finally leave the prison instead of staying there like, animals.
Like the minorities that are staying there.
The one thing that I will say before you take over what I think we're both thinking here, it was really, there's a part of this piece where they were talking about how one of the inmates was saying it finally gave him the sense of pride and purpose that he's been looking for his entire life. And that when he gets released, this is something that he's going to continue to do outside the community, into the community, which I think is just, a part of rehabilitation going the right way. You know what I mean? Like,
Abso-fucking-lutely.
Yeah. Rehabilitation going the right way. So,
and just to piggyback off that, yes, we are definitely on the same wavelength, because also too, this is going to be seen in the far right as, oh, we're wasting all these taxpayers' money. We're doing this to these rapists and killers. And there's a lot of people that aren't living life sentences that are going to need to come back into society and going to be able to need to have a job and to be productive without going back into the prison system. But maybe there's a tie-in when it comes to locking up people of color and the money incentives with private prisons.
Yeah. And we've kind of teased this out a little bit, but I think at the end of the month, folks, you should be looking out for our next series that we're going to be putting out around the prison industrial complex and what all these types of things, how these types of initiatives tie into rehabilitation, not just incarceration. Mm-hmm. Part 2 that I've got here, I think we're all going to be happy about this one.
NBC News right this moment is projecting a winner in the Wisconsin Supreme Court race. NBC News projects at this hour that Susan Crawford is the projected winner in the Wisconsin Supreme Court race. This is a remarkable outcome. We've got just 47% of the vote in, but you see that is that is what appeared to me before we got the call to be a clear lead for Susan Crawford. Again, she's the Democratic-backed candidate in this race. Now, according to NBC News, she has defeated Brad Schimmel. Again, the resources that were brought to bear on Brad Schimmel's behalf were extraordinary. This is the most expensive judicial race that has ever happened in the United States of America. It includes single individual funding for a judicial candidate that has never been seen before in the history of this country. Not just the overall race, but Elon Musk's personal investment in trying to get Brad Schimmel elected to this race is something that has never been seen before by any other individual in any judicial race in American history.
That happened, and as far as I'm concerned, that's a really good thing. We should feel some kind of joy.
Absolutely, and I think one of the biggest joys is that the woman who won won by 10 points.
Yeah,
so
it was a massive swing.
So it was, even with all that huge amount of money that was dumped into the election, it was a big referendum against Elon Musk and his influence. But I'm taking a step back and just thinking how fucking insane it is that 21 million and whatever money was spent on the other side for this ad or for this candidate to be able to run and win, and how much that money could be used for other things.
That money could be spent much better in other places that aren't around a Supreme Court. But you know what? Here's the thing. If that's what it takes to get people to go out to vote against fascism, is for them to show their wealth and for people to be tired of hearing about it. One of the interviews I heard on the AP, they were saying, one of the people who were part of the voting line was saying they're just tired of hearing about Elon, and whatever they can do to get him to shut up is what they were willing to do. So you know what? Maybe Elon, just keep running your fucking mouth. Yeah. Maybe this is the salve that we've all needed for such a long time.
Well, but you were also sending me that article from the AP saying that Elon's tenure after his 180 days or whatever might come to an end. And I mean, we have our theories about it, but I think we both kind of agreed that he's probably going to take a back burner seat,
Mm-hmm.
and just as long as he can continue to pump and dump money into the party and just fuck off,
Yeah.
then that's
Trump will take his money.
Absolutely.
He'll take his money. He'll take his influence on Twitter. Like what they're going to do is just, well, we can get into it another day.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a bunch of the conspiracy theories. Put your tinfoil hat on. We're going to take a beer break, and when we return, we'll discuss the week that was and our douche canoe of the week. The douche canoe of the week is an alleged Nazi, a Hitler stan, and a former Beyonce fan. We're talking Kanye West.
Mr. Kanye.
He's given us infamous lines like this one.
George Bush doesn't care about black people.
But the greatest thing about that link is Mike Myers' face when he says it.
The absolute, like, what the fuck did you
What
just
did you just say on live TV?
Yeah.
But you know what?
He ain't wrong.
I didn't disagree with Kanye then.
I think you're going to disagree with this one. This next clip.
I'm done with the classifications. Every human being has something of value that they brought to the table, especially Hitler.
Kanye also brought us this line.
You hear about slavery for 400 years? For 400 years, that sounds like a choice.
But to give some context, like Yeezus, he's a little mentally ill. Not to excuse his behavior.
Yeah.
But he is really, really crazy.
Oh, he is crazy. And after hearing all that, you might go, what did Ye do this week that might make him the douche canoe of the week?
No way.
It's when he went full KKK with DJ Academics. The entire interview, DJ Academics looks incredibly uncomfortable. And here's a clip from that.
Wherever you want. You can sit right here. Yeah. What do you think? Okay.
Real quick, Sergio, can you talk me through what's going on here right now?
So Yeezus, Yeezy, Kanye is walking into a room fully robed in a Ku Klux Klan outfit, but it's black. I'm hoping he's trying to embrace the Spaniards like to wear that, but
Oh, he's got to put a microphone on. Watch this. Oh man, the microphone keeps falling off. Why does the microphone keep falling off? Kanye's going to show you why here in a second.
She need to bust down chain too, man.
Really? Took that Nazi chain and made it bust, but
click that Nazi chain
I
and
wanted to
bust.
wear it with this, but the part comes down a little bit too low. Like it need to sit right there.
The Nazi
I got a white leather one that falls right in the perfect place.
Really?
swastika. He's got a swastika necklace
So you got
on.
this made specifically.
Absolutely. The leather, the nigga KKK shit.
So he's got a Klan outfit on that he had custom made with a swastika necklace. During this hour-long ramble
Oh my
session,
God.
Kanye talks about his kids, how he shouldn't have had kids with Kim. That's the only thing in this interview that he and I agree on. He blames the Jews for literally everything. He hates on Kendrick, talks shit about Jay-Z and Beyonce, wore a swastika necklace and a Klan outfit, talks shit on John Legend for wearing sweaters, calls Kendrick a slave to the Jewish-owned music industry, libels Kris Jenner. And also is having a full mental breakdown on video. It's very clear to me that Kanye is very unwell.
Yes.
Incredibly unwell. But he has got a long history of showing just how hateful of a person he can be. He even compares himself to God.
Even when you criticize the Super Bowl performance, or you're like, man, I didn't like him on Cardi's album. He got too many verses. Like, yeah, he could rap, but we ain't want to hear
Talking about Kendrick Lamar there.
Y'all don't go to church? God is an angry God. God is a jealous God. What are you talking about? I'm the closest thing to God on earth, and I act just like how God acts.
No, what's really sad about all of this is that I watched whatever was on Netflix about
Yeah.
about him.
Yeah.
And it's really incredible to see his kind of mindset and how hard he worked to kind of get where he, and the self-promoting and
like busting the door down at Rockefeller
and
like
saying like, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm great at this.
Yeah.
Believe in me. And he was a really, really great producer and has come up with some really, really iconic music within our lifespan.
Yeah.
However, it's just really sad that I think after his mother passed away, that it just really, really went downhill, and he didn't have anybody really to regulate him. I mean, you had a guy that, with his shoes from Adidas, was making he was a billionaire, and it got taken away because he didn't have the right people in his corner to medicate him and get him into where he needs to be. And I mean, I'm not excusing any of this behavior. This behavior is so outrageous.
It's insane.
It's really insane. But it's also really sad to see somebody really, really talented and that was good at their craft, had an ego, but to go to this extreme length to be where he's at. And it's hard to see somebody that,
It is hard. I've written down that some of his songs are so thoroughly woven into the memories of my young adult life. We're talking early 20s, like college age. To have someone's music that interwoven into, Friday nights out with the guys, warm up songs for rugby, stuff that I used to work out to in the gym, all of that is gone. And I happily divorce myself from that now, knowing.
Can you listen to Kanye now? Like, can you still listen to College Dropout or some of the good albums?
The hard part for me is I genuinely think that it's a top 10 album.
All time?
Not all time. But like from let's say the early 2000s to today, I think it's one of the top 10 albums of all time of this period, of this
decade
era
or whatever.
Yeah. I don't like 10 like all time you're talking about, music in the key of life is, from Stevie Wonder, you're talking Bad, you're talking
hip hop.
Even still, I don't think that it cracks the top 10. But for me. But for this guy to just continue to show himself now as like this, whether or not he's medicated or unmedicated, he knows that he's not well. He's even said as much, when he's come down from being manic or whatever, like he's even said like, hey, I apologize. Like, wasn't in my right mind. I know that I wasn't in my right mind. I'm sorry for saying this. When he talked about slavery being a choice, he eventually came back off of that when he was medicated, and Kim got him kind of like, right in the right place. Now, during this interview, by the way, the entire time he keeps checking his phone because he's leaving for China because they
say it right.
They're leaving for China.
China?
They're coming for China. So he's getting ready to leave for China because he's afraid that they're going to involuntarily commit him because he is like fucking doing this shit again.
Yeah.
And he knows that, they're not going to follow him to China.
It's super sad. Does he have substance abuse issues as well, or is it just mostly?
I don't know about that. I know that like he talks, all hip hop artists do. Like they talk about substance abuse in his lyrics, but like, what does that look like on the ground in reality? I don't know. But I do know that like you can't fucking wear a swastika chain and talk about hating the Jews and being an anti-Semitic piece of shit, and for me to still expect to be following you, dude.
Yeah.
Like I was looking on the Yay subreddit, and people are fucking ditching him left and right. Like it's no longer acceptable, man. And like you're going to be losing people who.
It was never acceptable.
Well, yeah, to be fair, let's be very clear. It was never acceptable. But like people were able to go like,
this show doesn't accept anti-Semitism.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you clarifying and putting a dotting that I for us. We definitely that's not who we are or what we are. But like the idea that like you could go, it's the artist versus the art. Like you could play a little soft and loose with like, Graduation and Dropout were amazing albums. Like he's a piece of shit, but like same thing we do with Michael Jackson, right? Like, oh yeah, he may have diddled some kids, blah blah blah, but like Bad was an amazing album. Like you cannot sleep on fucking Thriller, blah blah blah. But when you do this shit like over and over and over, and like there is a video record of this shit happening for over nearly a decade now. of you being an anti-Semitic pile of garbage.
And I think the big differences between that, and I mean, Michael Jackson clearly had big issues. However, it wasn't this being at the very, very top and just this horrific decline.
For everyone
I mean,
to see.
there was weird things, dangling the kid off the balcony.
Yeah, blanket,
all that stuff. But it also, to see somebody who has a lot of talent, that you know, grew up in Southside Chicago or in difficult circumstances, that really
his life wasn't that difficult though. He was fucking soft. Mom and dad were college professors. Like, get out of here. He didn't have it hard. He was a kid of the suburbs. He just was. He's unmedicated. He's unwell.
Yeah.
And if there's one,
but it's hard to see somebody that has so much potential that could be good.
Agreed.
That it's not like an active choice like J.D. Vance and Donald Trump, who we'll be talking about later.
Yeah, and maybe we'll, before we turn over to our main story for the day, maybe this is just another way for us to advocate. Take care of your fucking mental health, folks. Do not end up like Kanye.
But you can see though, and again, we try to show empathy on the show. It's really sad to see somebody, even though he has a big ego and he's done a lot of really, really crazy things, to see that has a lot of talent just self-implode like this. Yeah. And I think it's pretty well documented how mentally ill he is.
Yeah, and it is sad. It really is sad. But let's move along. Yeah, shall we?
Yeah, we can't sit around and cry about Kanye West all
fuck
that much.
Kanye.
Yeah.
You know what, Kanye? You are the douche canoe. You've heard of the Rumble in the Jungle. You've heard Beauty and the Beast. You've heard of Superman versus Batman.
The Thriller in Manila.
But what about Obama versus Trump?
There's this other story. I know it's hypothetical right now, but if you were allowed for some reason to run for a third term, is there a thought that the Democrats could try to run Barack Obama against you?
I'd love that.
For his third term?
Boy, I'd love that. That would.
Barack Hussein Obama.
No, people are asking me to run, and there's a whole story about running for a third term. I don't know. I never looked into it.
I never looked into it.
They
You
do say
fucking
there's a way
liar.
you can do it, but I don't know about that. But I have not looked into it. I want to do a fantastic.
Sergio, I'm no Rhodes scholar or anything, but something about the 22nd Amendment, right? Like, read the top line for us of the 22nd Amendment, if you could.
You're asking me if I can read, man.
Yeah. Well, I know it's a hard lift for you, but
I got it. No person shall be elected to the office of the president more than twice.
yeah, pretty easy, right? Like
That's
all
clear.
We've all grown
That's
up.
pretty
with this
clear
one.
cut.
Yeah, we've all grown up with this one. FDR broke the presidential tradition when he served 3 terms back during the Great Depression, and also.
But the question is, was that? I thought that was that amendment got put in place after FDR.
Yes, absolutely. Right. So there was a tradition of like Washington only served 2 and every other president after him, as an honor to this tradition of Washington giving up the seat, decided, hey, after 2, we're done. Right. So it was like one of those, non-spoken head nods of like, yep, just move on. Mm-hmm. It wasn't until FDR took the helm for the 3rd time when Congress said, you know what, we probably should put some limits on the presidential power here because we want to avoid a potential monarch. Thomas Jefferson, the man the right wing idolizes for some reason, had this to say about.
Why though?
Because he was a framer and he didn't believe in Christianity being involved in the government, but somehow they still believed in that. He believed in owning people while also having sex with them and then
having children with them.
Yeah. I mean, something about like a hyper amount of contradiction within one human being. But whatever, it's not, we're not here to talk about Thomas, as I call him. But Mr. Jefferson, Tomas, he believed, he had this to say about 2-term presidents. He believed that there was zero distinction between a president serving more than 2 terms and a monarch. In fact, in his autobiography, Jefferson wrote, should a president consent to be a candidate for a 3rd election, I trust he would be rejected on this demonstration of ambitious views. In 1945, Representative John Jennings Jr. from Tennessee stated that only by adoption of the 22nd Amendment could the people be assured that we shall never have a dictator in this land. And all that background leads us to what Trump said just a couple weeks ago.
With our viewers, something the president posted, Ed. It's a message that reads in part, quote, "Long live the king." And this is after he ended New York's congestion pricing. Of course, the founders of the U.S. famously left my homeland of England precisely because they don't want to live under a king. So what is the thinking here?
Well, it's a good question, Errol.
I include that clip because of that's a great question, because it literally, it's stupefying, right? Mm-hmm. But now Trump's donors, his loyalists, they're all entertaining a way to establish his dominion. Sergio, what are your thoughts around this? Because I'm dying.
I mean, my thoughts right now just continues to just benefit and improve and just validate my thoughts that Donald Trump is way more dangerous than J.D. Vance, because he has this all written in. Well, I'm not going to say that's not going to happen.
Right, because of what? Why can't he say it yet? I'll tell you why. Because the Heritage Foundation hasn't figured out a way, because J.D. Vance hasn't laid it out for him yet. We're going to have this fight right now.
Well, and so, I guess one of the things...
Mommy and Daddy are screaming at each other. Cover your ears.
Oh, we need to have Ruggie come in between us and pass the messages back and forth.
Mom, Dad, stop yelling at each other. Just it's dinner time.
But just thinking about, so this is, I go back and forth, and I definitely have seen and understood your point of view when it comes to JD.
Yeah.
And this is the reason why I think Donald Trump is more dangerous, because he's a fucking idiot.
Okay.
He's a fucking idiot, and, he will just run with it and just won't think of the consequences. He'll say anything.
Yeah, that's fair. He will say that.
He will do anything that comes to his mind or wants to tweet. And if he doesn't like it, I mean, he wants to win. That's all he wants to do. He wants to come off as being the most powerful, the best president ever. And he doesn't give a shit what anybody else says about it.
Well, I don't want to re-legislate.
He's scratching.
I don't want to re-legislate an argument that I've already won, but
according to the polls, I'm up by
one
vote. And I think I voted for myself.
So, really, there's like
3 votes.
God, 2 of them for you and me. Oh God, guys, listen. We know you're listening.
We need some participation.
We need you to fucking participate, because
Lindsay, I know that you listened to this and you said that Greg was right.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Cast your vote.
Or it doesn't matter. Much like if you cast your vote for me. But no, so Trump has signed 155 executive orders since being inaugurated just 76 days ago. He's doing his level best to reshape the government in the vision that the Heritage Foundation and members like J.D. Vance has laid out for him. We're not going to read off like all of the executive orders and things like that. Check the show notes.
I have a question for you, though.
Yeah, go for it.
I don't know if you've noticed it or not. Has he set a record for the most?
Yes.
By far.
Yeah.
For EOs?
Yeah, we're going to get into that a little bit here.
Okay.
So actually, WBAL broke down some of the numbers.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, actually, yeah. Big shout out to WBAL.
Local news horn?
Yeah. Well, I think they use some like federal resources, but like they have a really good compilation of everything. So big shout out to our local affiliate here. But only 3 of the last 15 United States presidents have signed an executive order on their first day, including Donald Trump the first time, Joe Biden, and Donald Trump the second time.
But Joe Biden was probably signing executive orders to overturn the executive orders by Donald Trump.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right. So since Inauguration Day, Trump's current rate of signing executive orders is 1.6 per day, which is, nearly 2 a day. And that is too many. The last thing before we move on, though, from the executive order side of this, Trump has already signed more executive orders than any other president has in the first 100 days over the last 80 years. Before Trump, former President Harry Truman held the record for most executive orders signed within the first 100 days with a total of 57. So he blew that motherfucker out the water, dog. And this is when I wrote all this up like on Wednesday. So I don't know how many executive orders have happened since then or not. I have no idea.
You get an executive order. You get an executive order.
Seriously. I mean, like, we're not going to read out what they are, but like there have been 11 orders on climate change and energy alone.
Just what about DEI stuff?
44.
Dog, but
yeah. I'm laughing because it's like, what else can you do?
The thing that's so fucking crazy about that, though, is that I was watching or I was listening to some other podcast, and they talked about how these executive orders were basically nullifying people of color, Black veterans that have received awards. They tried to whitewash with AI stuff, like anything that had gay or so the Enola Gay was wiped off from stuff.
Yeah,
and it's just
Jackie Robinson was removed. Remember the 761st Tank Battalion episode that we did? One of the founding members of Jackie Robinson had his military career wiped out because of an executive order on DEI for the 761st Tank Battalion.
Yeah, which is really, really insane. So they talk about government waste. So we're going to change all this stuff around and have people do this work.
Yeah.
To whitewash everything.
Yeah. No,
that's mind fucking blowing, dog.
Tell me more about that though, because I'd like for you to give me a little bit more than just mind fucking blowing, because it's more than mind. It is ripping.
It's America. This is America.
But it's ripping apart like the very fabric of truth about like people's participation. You know what I mean?
Yes, the people that made the ultimate sacrifice, that did everything possible to do everything for their country, and get shat on.
Yeah, yeah. I'm
as soon as Trump came into office, just saying like, oh, this person didn't deserve it. The only reason why, and you can even take it back to the 5-star generals that have been dismissed.
Yes, agreed.
And it's deplorable that we are
deplorable. You're deplorable.
The deplorables.
The deplorables. Here's another one though. Like I'm just pulling this up for you right now. So this is from the newrepublic.com, and one of the executives
sounds woke,
very woke. Trump brings back Confederate statues in one of his most racist executive orders. Donald Trump is bringing Confederate statues back on Thursday. This was written on, what day is this? March 28th, 2025. An executive order titled Restoring Truth and Sanity in America instructs Vice President J.D. Vance to terminate any activity as he sees as anti-American ideology from the nation's cultural institutions like the Smithsonian and the National Zoo. The order will prohibit funding.
We don't like gay penguins.
Gangwins.
Gangwins, no. No.
So many gay penguins, so many gay. Oh, my God. So it instructs Vice President J.D. Vance to terminate any activity he says he sees as anti-American ideology from the nation's cultural institutions like the Smithsonian Museum and the National Zoo. The order will prohibit funding for exhibits or programs that degrade shared American values, whatever the fuck that means, divide Americans by race, we already know what you're doing to do that, or promote ideologies inconsistent with federal law, whatever the fuck that means, and celebrate women's achievements in the United States in the American Women's History Museum and do not recognize men as women. But hidden in the order and missing from most headlines is one of other big changes. The Secretary of the Interior is to determine whether, since January 1, 2020, public monuments, memorials, statues, markers, and similar properties within the Department of the Interior's jurisdiction have been removed or changed to perpetuate a false reconstruction of American history and appropriately minimize the value of certain historical events or figures or include any other improper partisan ideology. So, get ready to see the likes of the General Lee rolling down fucking, I don't know, Saks Fifth Avenue or some shit.
Well, so for spring break, we're going to go down to Richmond, and Richmond used to have the Monument Row or whatever that had a big homage because wasn't Richmond the capital of the Confederacy?
Yep.
And so, I mean, thankfully they have a big Arthur Ashe, who was a tennis player from Richmond.
We'll see what happens to that.
But that they removed all of the Confederate statues, and now they're coming back. I mean, it even goes back to what is it, Fort Bragg, right?
Mm-hmm.
That they named it Fort America or Fort Liberty.
Fort Liberty, yeah.
And now they're rechanging it back because to Bragg, even though Bragg was a racist.
Yeah, and above all of that, a traitor to the United States of America,
like Benedict Arnold.
Yeah, we're batting for 1,000 here.
The thing that just blows my mind, and maybe you can talk me through this, but I just don't understand what this love obsession is with the South, who are a bunch of losers who lost. They're racist.
I think you're okay. Well, finish your thought. Sorry.
No, I mean that's it. It's just we have this obsession, and maybe it's the Electoral College and the way everything runs, and a small minority of white people that are in power that can.
Are you mimicking me before I get to my answer?
I'm just.
You're mimicking me. He's mimicking me, folks. He's doing it again. He can't even say me. He can't even say China.
China.
No, I'm only busting your balls. But no, one of the things I think the American psyche loves is and I think most people, I think this is actually a human thing. We are really, we really want to look to the past as instruction to how we should operate in the future. But specifically where we are today, fascism relies on a desire for the past, right? Like Alex Jones, we talked about him last week. But one of the things that in an episode I was actually listening to recently, because I believe in abusing myself. No, he was talking about we're going to take it back to the 1950s culture, but for everybody, right? It's a reflection to the past because the past is seen through the lens of, well, things were simpler then. Things weren't as hard. Things weren't, everyone knew their place and everyone had a place for a thing. Whether or not you and I agree with what those places were, that's the mentality is women had a place, blacks had a place, minorities had a place. Everyone knew their place. There was order, and order is the only thing that matters if the order is applicable to us being at the top of the order.
But I'm going to just push back with what you just said right now.
Go for it.
Isn't that what we have right now?
No.
Yes.
Is it?
Blacks are going to live in their black neighborhood. Women are bitching about things. Minorities are going to do the shitty jobs that we don't want to do, and then we're going to complain about them.
Yeah.
And we're going to continue to move on. And I guess one of the things that...
I think there's upward mobility where there used to not be, though. If that, like if in the 1950s and you and I were in two different neighborhoods, we would never, ever come across each other, ever. I do think that there is today a very different dynamic than, let's say, 1950. Women, upward mobility of women and their ability to drive their own levels of success. Same for black folks, especially in the county that I live in currently, right? Like black ownership, house ownership is going up, trending upwards. It's not across the entire county, but in my neighborhood specifically, like I can only speak for where I live, we've had several black families move in, and a lot of white families are moving out, and I understand what all that means anthropologically and all that, but there is, I think at least, there's a different picture. I don't think that the structures have changed. I think the picture has changed a little bit.
But do you think it's just been accepted a little bit and there's still... You just look... I live in Baltimore City, and you know where black people live.
Yeah.
You know where white people live.
Sure.
There's mixed neighborhoods like my neighborhood, which have probably improved. Even though, actually, I learned that my neighborhood was one of the first, like, set neighborhoods to be
Integrated
racial, integrated,
Yeah.
all that. But it's still... It's very apparent. It's a lot more apparent here. I mean, I guess it's apparent everywhere in the United States, but I feel like in the East Coast, you can tell where the black side of town is.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, like
and the white side of town.
I am not ignorant to that at all. I guess maybe what I'm saying is in the 1950s America, 1960, I mean, all the way up until, let's call it, even, like, you're right. You're not wrong.
Dog,
you're not wrong.
But you can even tailor it to the last election. People aren't ready to have a black woman of color.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong at all. I think that the picture has changed a little bit.
I guess a black woman of color is pretty self-evident.
Well,
idiot! God!
Yeah, you fucked up again. You fucked up again there, Sergio. But no, yeah. So the last thing before we move on, Sergio, Trump has already signed more executive orders than any other president, right? I guess the point I want to make here is, even though some of these orders are going to be held up in court, right? What is the difference between what Trump is currently doing and ruling by decree of a king? Like, what's the difference here? You know what I mean? Like, that's the conversation I've been having with myself recently, is what is the difference between a president who can just rule by executive order, whether that be a Democrat or a Republican or some third party that eventually comes into play? What is the difference between that and a king? Like, where are we at in our democracy where we're allowing for, the head of state to pardon people that they've never met for crimes that they don't really know the full details of, to rule by decree because they don't feel like dealing with the parliament or the congressional legislative system?
I think one of the big things that hopefully you don't lose within this next 3 years or 3.5 years is that we will have Congress, we'll have the Senate, we'll have the judiciary branch that's going to say, hey, look, the power of we have these 3 branches that are set up to separate that so that we don't go down this path.
Yeah.
But the thing that I think that's really startling to me, and we'll have some guests coming on hopefully in the next few episodes to talk about this a little bit more, but that there's really a big bending of the knee when it comes to the Republican Party of allowing this kind of behavior to continue without challenging it and allowing their power to be taken away from them.
Yeah.
When it comes to the power of the purse, when it comes to the economy, budget stuff, this whole government purge that's going on, we're really in a crisis right now.
I mean, yeah, I think
we've never had a president like this.
No, I agree with that, and I think people there's conversations around, are we in a constitutional crisis?
Yes.
We've been in one for a really long time. I'd argue. As a how do I want to word this without getting myself in trouble? One of the things I often think about is the idea of the unified executive and what that looks like. And how many people want that, whether it be Republican or Democrat, right? Like, the Democrats would have loved for Obama to be able to do anything with impunity, with no consequences, even though they say, oh, well, we want to play by the rules and blah, blah, blah. People who were on the left would have loved for Obama to be able to do whatever he wanted to do. And the same goes for Trump. The same goes for Bush. The same goes back for Reagan. There is a sense that we have all forgotten that we don't want kings. We don't want a a consolidated executive who can just ad hoc make rules and decisions based on how they feel that day.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that I think it is a big stark contrast to the previous presidents before Trump is that you had that kind of underlying knowledge, and you had that pushback from Congress that was able to say, like, hey, you're not all in charge. You're not going to do this.
Yeah.
And I think Trumponomics and Trump has really changed that game with somebody that is such an outlier that will do and say anything possible. Sometimes he comes home with his tail between his legs, but there's just so much chaos that happens that a lot of the stuff to keep him in power gets passed through because and he's pushing it to this spot where we talked about FDR, right? Like there'd been this kind of underlying understanding, like, hey, you run for 2 years
and you're done,
and then you're done.
Yeah.
But there's not been anybody that's really challenged that, and and it's not ever been front and center.
Yeah, I mean, well, because like the 22nd Amendment is supposed to have taken care of that, but now we live in a very different time, and I think one of the problems that I struggle with regards to this idea of a unified executive and a very passive legislative branch, and a more and more irrelevant court system as it becomes more of a rubber stamp for whatever party is in power, is this idea that kind of instinctively you see people on both sides of the aisle going, yeah, we kind of want the unified executive. We want someone who's able to just carte blanche make decisions without a legislative process. And for me, as an idealist who...
But is that just because it's easier?
Yeah. Instead of fucking sitting down and doing the hard work of...
It's not the bureaucracy of what a democracy should really be.
Yes. The idea that, like, no, this is supposed to be fucking hard. I think we've talked a lot about the executive power.
We talked a lot about nothing.
We talked a lot about how Trump is trying to rule as an unified executive, how the parties are allowing for this to happen, and how the people who are involved in it can just allow for this thing to happen. But when we come back, we're going to discuss some more about the wannabe king's play for Greenland and deporting a bunch of fucking people while he's at it.
Oh, it makes me so sad.
So we live in a horrific time, Sergio.
Yes, we do.
This is from an Instagram post that was sent to me from Judy, and I just thought we should share it to start off the conversation.
Deme la orden. Ya le volví, ya le dije. Deme la orden. Dele la orden. No le voy a dar la orden. La orden está en el No, pues no me voy a bajar. Entonces le tiene que...
So she's saying, show me the order, show me the order. This is a woman in a car getting stopped by ICE.
Yeah, so she was disappeared by ICE. It was a 52-year-old mother. This was a couple days ago.
Me baja, si no, no, you know, deja que lo revienten. No, if it's against... No!
So they're breaking her window?
They just broke her window in. Unlocked the door for her. She is just sitting there fucking being as calm as she can be. I would be losing my fucking mind.
You guys cannot take her just because you guys want to. No te preocupes, Karen, no te preocupes.
She's saying, don't worry, don't worry.
Tranquila, mama.
Oh, that's in English.
Dale, Ulises. You act like you want to have fucking kids. No te preocupes, mama. Todo va a estar bien.
She said, don't worry about it, don't worry about it. Everything's going to be okay. But they are, they're getting the glass off of her after they shattered her window.
Yeah. That's a Maryland connection. That happened in Westminster, Maryland this week. She was wrongfully identified and detained by ICE agents. So that's just one wrongful.
Oh, I'm glad that you're going to talk about, hopefully, the one that we're both talking about.
Yeah. Here's another Maryland connection, though. That is just one, as I said, wrongful connection here. Outrage grows over the wrongful, mistaken deportation of a man who was sent to an El Salvadorian prison 22 days since a Maryland resident, Kilmar Garcia, was mistakenly deported to a notoriously violent prison in El Salvador. His young son has sought comfort in the scent of his missing father's fucking clothing.
Has ordered the Trump administration to bring an immigrant back to the United States by the end of the day today. U.S. officials admit they wrongly deported Kilmar Armando Abrego Garcia to an El Salvador prison last month. Justice Department officials say that was a mistake. U.S. District Judge Paula Zinis says his arrest was illegal and his deportation was, quote, wholly unlawful. She wants him back immediately. NPR's Joel Rose reports it's not clear that will happen.
The Justice Department is appealing. They argue that courts do not have jurisdiction over this case because Abrego Garcia is in the custody of El Salvador, and essentially there is nothing that Judge Zinis can do. The Justice Department is asking the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals for an emergency stay, but if they do not get one, that midnight deadline will still be in place.
Words escape you sometimes, Sergio, and I don't have the words, so I'm going to leave it to you, please.
So I think one of the things that's just so disheartening about everything that's been going on, and when we have been reading the news, there's so much things that are going on right now that are distracting that this administration is implementing. But this whole deportation, we have seen the Columbia students that have been detained and sent to maximum security prisons in Louisiana. And the thing that happened with this Maryland father is that he got sent to this maximum security prison in El Salvador. The Salvadorian president, Bukele, is this born-again Christian president that has his biggest claim to fame is that he has reduced the crime rate. El Salvador was at one point one of the most dangerous countries in the world with MS-13 and Calle 18, which was a big street gang. But there's a lot of things that have been going on, and we can go in the show notes and show it to you where people are being misidentified and being sent to maximum security prisons in El Salvador that are... And within this prison in El Salvador, basically one of their biggest things is they're starving prisoners, and they're so emaciated that they can't do any kind of big crimes because they have no energy, and it's torture. And so there have been instances of Venezuelan immigrants and refugees that had been identified by ICE as Trendaragua or Trendaragüe.
Yeah, Aragüe.
And one of the heartbreaking stories is this guy that had autism awareness tattoo that was shipped out to this prison. He's not El Salvadorian, but he was sent to this maximum security prison because of the tattoos that we have. So this is one of the scary things that everybody that listens to this show, and hopefully you can pass it on to more people to listen to the show, that we are having people that are innocent, that are refugees, that have refugee status, that are being sent to maximum security prisons because of tattoos, because of the color of their skin.
Because they said something that the administration does not agree with.
That administration doesn't agree with, or they're students and they're trying to send a message, and they're the easiest targets that you can get to send to these places. So our liberties, what we are supposed to stand as a country is being stripped away from us, and people are being taken away, and they're using old administrative policies from the 1940s that the Secretary of State can revoke people's visas and send them down or kick them out of the country, or they're just saying, oh, your tattoo looks suspicious, and they have a checklist. ICE has a checklist of sending people that are here legally that are getting sent away, and this is horrific. And we will add show notes, and this should pull at your heartstrings because this is fucking unacceptable. And there's a lot of things like I'm not a big fan of the richest billionaires getting tax breaks, but this is something that we all need to fight for, that people are getting stripped of their human rights and being sent away, and basically they're going to rot away and die, and there's nothing that's going to happen. And going back to this Maryland story, so it was this father that was accused of being MS-13 member was sent to this prison, and the Trump administration said, "Well, it was an administrative issue, but we're not going to try to get him back."
Yep. Yeah. It's
fucked up, and
it's the most grotesque thing.
It's disgusting.
It's for those of you who need a historical reference. If you heard about Japanese internment
in the 40s during World War II.
This is that, except we're sending them to a different country. We have decided that these are people that don't matter.
Countries that they don't even belong to.
Right. So this is worse than that. We are turning a blind eye collectively. We're saying we're allowing for this to happen. This isn't, if the fact that this isn't on the front news page of every newspaper every single day, that this is that illegal deportations of human beings who are here legally is happening on a daily basis,
or who have applied for asylum,
or just people,
or refugees
who have no criminal fucking record, are without due process. What is a country? What is our country without due process? The reason why the reason why folks left England was because of the lack of due process
all over the world.
Right, but like, let's go back to the origin story, right? Like, they left because of religious freedom, because there were a bunch of psychopaths who were practicing a religion that the state didn't agree with.
Quakers.
Bunch of fucking losers. You know, you've got these people who are immigrating to another country because they are in fear of their lives, because our country has done something so fucked up to Central America to make it uninhabitable, unlivable, because we decided a long time ago that we were all going to turn a blind eye and allow for things to happen, and now we're doing it again to our fucking neighbors. We're allowing for this to happen. It is an atrocity on a scale that we'll never be able to recover from. People are being deported because they've got the wrong tattoo, because they decided that they wanted to speak up against the fact that America today is sending over another THAAD system, THAAD. So it's some kind of air defense system to Israel, so that they can bomb more Gazan kids.
Or people that are against the siege that's going on in the Gaza Strip.
But we're not. But no one's upset about fucking Russia and Ukraine. No one's worried about the what's going to be happening, or what we're going to be moving on to here shortly in fucking Greenland. Like, we could be going to war with Europe over Greenland now, but let's not worry about the children who are losing their parents, who are smelling their fucking clothing. Think about that. If you're listening to this and you've got kids, and you get fucking shipped off into the middle of fucking nowhere, and the only connection your kid has with you is a t-shirt that you wore.
Oof. Those are heavy thoughts. And I think one of the things that's
so fucking gross to me. Like, if you're okay with that, there's something very, very wrong with you. There's something so wrong.
And I think the thing, I don't know if we put it on, but just Chrissy Nome.
Don't even get me started on that.
She
was going to be the original douche canoe. Then Kanye came out with a fucking flying elbow out of nowhere and hit it.
No, I mean,
Chrissy Nome could have gotten it.
It's 1 and 1A.
Yeah.
But she went down to this maximum security Salvadorian prison and posed with her $50,000 Rolex watch and said, "Well, if you're illegal and you're coming here, this is what you deserve." And maybe this is my idealistic side of me, but a lot of people don't want to leave their countries. There's reasons why they're leaving to come here, whether it's because of economic opportunity or just the fact that we would rather support American businesses to rape and pillage lands and people and support that rather than these autonomous countries being able to run their own things.
Speaking of running your autonomous countries, here's a compilation of Trump and Vance talking about Greenland.
And I also have a message tonight for the incredible people of Greenland. We need Greenland, very importantly, for international security. Greenland's very important for the peace of the world, not us, the peace of the entire world. And I think Denmark understands it. I think the European Union understands it. And if they don't, we're going to have to explain it to them.
This has to happen. And the reason it has to happen, I hate to say it, is because our friends in Denmark have not done their job in keeping this area safe. Bury our head in the sand, or in Greenland, bury our head in the snow, and pretend that the Chinese are not interested in this very large landmass.
We really don't even know if Denmark has any legal right to it. But if they do, they should give it up.
Assure the world that...
That's the thing that's so great. It's just...
We don't even know.
We don't even know. But they should give it up anyway.
They should just give it to us, folks.
Try to get control of these areas. You are not going to use military or economic coercion?
No.
And can you tell us a little bit about what your plan is?
I'm going to use economic coercion.
Negotiate a new treaty?
No.
Are you going to ask the Canadians to hold a vote? What is the strategy?
Yeah, I can't assure you. You're talking about Panama and Greenland. No, I can't assure you on either
Shithole
of those
countries.
two. But I can say this. We need them for economic security. The Panama Canal was built for our military.
But China's going to take it over.
Did you hear that?
It might be that
This is my favorite
you'll have
part.
to do something.
This is my favorite bit when he talks about, he said, the reporter asked him, so you're saying you won't use military involvement? And he goes, I'm not going to say that. I don't know that. It's just, it's insanity, dude.
And I also have a message.
Man, fucking hell, man. This is where we're at now. So, 2 months ago, there was a Danish PM, or not PM, sorry, MP that was at the United Nations, and basically, we're not going to play the clip because it's too long, but basically, he was just saying like, I've got 2 words for you.
Is he going to go? Oh,
You know what? Let's hear from the Danish MP because I can't do the voice as well as you do, and you don't do as well as he does. So,
Mr. Trump, off.
That's all you need.
Mr. Trump, fuck off.
President Trump, listen very carefully. Greenland have been part of the Danish kingdom for 800 years. It's an integrated part of our country. It is not for sale. Let me put it in words you might understand. Mr. Trump, off.
That's not long at all. That's amazing.
Well, it goes on like one of the other like dignitaries is like, this is a house of democracy, and a house of democracy we don't use that kind of language.
Blah.
Yeah, exactly. Danish citizens don't want it either. They were doing a lot of like video polling and just door to door polling, and they were just asking Danish citizens. They're like, we have no interest in being a part of the United States. We don't want this at all. Donald Trump is barking up the wrong tree. And obviously, one of the things that kind of struck me, I don't know about you, but I know for me at least, it really hit me over the head pretty fast was like, oh, we're talking about imperialism again. Like, we're talking about just
westward expansion.
Yeah, we're back to episode 1.
Eastern expansion.
East and west, both, same time.
Northeast.
All expansion everywhere. We're back to the first episode that we did about westward expansion, but just like we're doing it everywhere now. And I want to talk about a little bit of history. I want to talk about Hawaii. A group of American sugar planters under a Sanford Ballard Dole, Mr. Dole, the Dole Company, if you recall, overthrew a queen, or Queen Lualakalani. I know I fucked that up because there are just so many goddamn vowels in the Hawaiian language. But she was a Hawaiian monarch. And they established a new provincial government with Dole as the president. You know, the pineapple that you get. I love pineapples.
Not Bob Dole. Bob Dole says,
Bob Dole, you are a loser. So Dole became the president of this provincial government in Hawaii. And
did you watch Bob Dole falling off the?
Yeah. Are you kidding me? It's one of my favorite clips.
It's
a great clip.
It's pretty amazing. Put that in the show notes.
Yeah, I will. Don't you worry. So there was a coup, and it occurred with foreknowledge from a guy by the name of John Stevens, who was the U.S. minister to Hawaii. And about 300 Marines from the U.S. cruiser Boston were called to Hawaii to, quote, protect American lives. During the next 4 decades, Hawaii entered into a number of political and economic treaties with the United States. And in 1887, a U.S. naval base was established at Pearl Harbor as a part of the new Hawaiian Constitution. Sugar exports to the United States expanded greatly during the next 4 years, and U.S. investors and American sugar planters on the island broadened their domination over Hawaiian affairs. And in January 1893, a Revolutionary Committee of Safety, quote unquote, organized by Mr. Dole, staged a coup against the Queen with the tacit support of the United States. And on February 1, Minister John Stevens recognized Dole's new government on his own authority and proclaimed that Hawaii was a U.S. protectorate. Dole submitted a treaty of annexation to the United States Senate, but most Democrats opposed it, especially after it was revealed that most Hawaiians did not want annexation. President Grover Cleveland sent a new U.S. minister to Hawaii to restore the Queen of Hawaii to the throne in 1887, but Dole refused to step aside and instead proclaimed the independent Republic of Hawaii. Cleveland was unwilling to overthrow the government by force, and his successor, Mr. McKinley, you've heard Donald Trump talk a lot about McKinley, renaming...
Slick Willie
McKinley.
Had the best deals ever.
He literally
He loved tariffs.
He loved a tariff. He loved a mountain in Alaska that he never went to. He was very proud of that mountain, many mountains. It was the best mountain.
The biggest mountain in the United States?
Never even seen a mountain, but I've never seen a mountain either. I've lived in Florida and in
New
York City. So many New Yorks. City's so nice, they named it twice.
New York.
So they negotiated a treaty from McKinley with the Republic of Hawaii in 1897. Again, remember, the Republic of Hawaii was owned by an American. So in 1898, the Spanish-American Civil War breaks out. Spanish-American War broke out, sorry. And the strategic use of the naval base at Pearl Harbor during the war convinced Congress to approve the formal annexation. 2 years later, Hawaii was organized into a formal U.S. territory, and in 1959 enters the United States as the 50th state. Moral of the story for me is, if the United States wants it, it's going to fucking get it.
But it will also...
It will create the conditions to make it happen, is what I'm saying.
Or they will, Puerto Rico.
Rico, hon.
America, Samoa.
Yep.
They're not states. Washington, D.C. is not states. So
Too brown. Why would you...
Hawaii?
Yeah. So here's what I'm thinking. If we were to use this as a template, what they did was they took a bunch of American citizens, dumped them onto the island, and by American citizens, I mean white American citizens, right? Dumped a bunch of white American citizens on it and said, oh, we're going to send 600 Marines in to protect Americans. They're not going to do that. You'd have to literally kill off the population of Puerto Rico. The United States is just not going to do that. You'd have to kill off the population of American Samoa. They're not going to do that. It's easier for them to operate with all the taxes that are included with citizenship and not give them citizenship. But for Greenland, that's already a primarily white nation.
It's not. It's indigenous.
Yeah.
I think it is.
You can wipe out most of those people. No one knows. No one's going to care.
Give them some smallpox.
I mean, give them a couple blankets. No one's going to know. Or you just go up there and drill into their water source and, let petroleum bleed into their water table. No one's going to know. It'll be fine.
Just like Flint.
Yeah, it'll be fine. Don't worry about it. But I guess what I'm trying to say...
That'll be great.
Well, I think the long play is America now has its eyes on Greenland. America will somehow end up with Greenland.
Do you think that? So what about also this thought about Canada?
I think that one's harder. I think that's harder because
there's more people.
There's more people. There's also like
there's sovereign nations there.
The distance between us is a lot closer than it is for Greenland. And really, what's Denmark going to do to the United States?
What's Canada going to do to the United States?
It's a lot closer hand to hand. Like the borders are too close. Like you can fucking like dominate the fuck out of Greenland. Carpet bomb nuke once, and Denmark goes, all right, whatever. You take it if you want it.
But would you think if that was the approach that the United States took, that I think there'd be massive outrage. They would take it, and it would. I think you wouldn't have a Republican.
To your point,
in
do you think
office
Trump
again.
gives a shit?
Well, that's I guess if there's ever going to be a free election again.
Yeah. Do you think he gives a shit? Do you think the Republican Party cares? I guess maybe we're taking this a little further down the road than I guess what I'm just thinking is out loud.
I need you to form up my foil hat that's on my head.
I know, right? I guess I'm not trying to. Maybe I'm chicken littling this a little bit, but I think if you look in our history, America is not known for like engaging in something and then just pulling out and going, oh, never mind. Like with the Philippines, for instance, right? Like it's not like we didn't have a gigantic footprint there, or Vietnam. Like it's not as if we're not.
Yeah, but what happened to both of those countries?
Yeah, eventually
they fucked us up.
Eventually,
both of them.
Eventually. But I mean,
we haven't quote unquote won a war since World War II.
True, but you don't need to win a war when you just let the local population die. You don't need to worry about that.
True. So for our Scottish listeners, we're coming for you next, bitches.
Yes, the locks. We'll take over those locks. Also, up the hearts. Come on. Anyway, I guess Sergio, I think we're coming to the end of this, but I just wanted to think about this through the authoritarian lens for a second. Like Russia invades Ukraine and they're like stuck in a mire for over like 4 or 5 years now. And United States is looking at the likes of, and it's like you heard JD Vance say like Russia and China are both looking at Greenland now and all this other stuff. You can already see how like the chessboard's being set up, right? Like if you look downrange, go ahead, sir.
No.
If you look downrange, you can see the way that the board's being set, and you go, all right, this has all happened before. We know how this game kind of plays out. We're going to end up in, if both Russia, China team up and try to take Greenland, like what's the next move? Oh, well, that's how I can see Trump and JD trying to sell this to the larger American audience. And I don't think right now, if you look at the approval ratings, if you look at like people's apathy to foreign, I say foreign, but like world politics and like interactions between world
we
governments.
Gotta send them back.
I don't think they give a shit.
Yeah.
So do I think that you're going to see a large snap of individual, like snapbacks of individuals going, no. I just don't see that happening. And I think that spells disaster for world economic markets, world wars. Like, I just don't, again, I don't want to chicken little this, like the sky's falling, but I also, I have a hard time seeing through the lens of history. And again, I'm not like, I'm a doctorate in history, but I fucking,
you should be.
I should. I also can't go that much more into student debt.
I've got my YouTube degree.
Hell yeah, dog. Are you kidding me, man? I got my doctorate in YouTube a long time ago. I'm getting a new one, a master's in shorts right now. But if you look through the lens of history, this story does not end with people walking away from the table, shaking hands, going, no, sir, I agree with you. No, sir, I agree with you. Let's all put our guns down.
Absolutely. And I think the thing is that we are, with the administration that we have right now, that we're really, really trying to emulate Russia, Turkey.
Yeah.
And
Hungary.
hungry.
Yeah, Viktor Orban is a really big motivator for Mr. Trump.
Yeah. And taking over just swaths of land and just being a strong man. And I think that what we can even just look at right now when it comes to the tariffs, these international tariffs that are going on, is that it's, or what's even going on with Ukraine, right? That we are going to take 50% of your precious minerals and we might defend you.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe, if we feel like it. But, you know, we like Vlad. Vlad's our homie.
We'll dump a bunch of fucking money into bombing the shit out of Gaza.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so I think one of the things that's going to be really interesting to see is just how the American people think about that and think about this power grab and our appearance on the national stage.
Do you think there are enough
world stage?
Do you think enough Americans give a shit about our world presence?
I think they will when it comes to when their cost of living gets fucked up with these tariffs and how the price of goods goes up.
Can I give you a story real quick? I was working yesterday at the
strip club.
Yeah. Collecting my singles. You know how Daddy does it. He shakes it for the big boys.
Make it rain.
Yeah, there were a couple of Japanese businessmen in the area. Daddy had to make it clap.
Goyaka, goyaka.
We somehow mixed Jamaican and Japanese. Jamaicanese.
Yeah.
No, does that work? I don't know. Anyway, so so this story. So yesterday I was at the store, at the beer store, and I'm working. I work a shift every Saturday at the beer store, just in case you're not familiar. And so I'm working the store and blah blah blah. I'm walking around, and this older white couple comes in, and they're like, "Hey, can you point us in the direction of your German beer?" I was like, "Yeah, I'll walk down with you. I'll show you where it's at. Here's your Hofbräu, blah blah blah." And they're like, "Oh, we're looking for this one." I was like, we don't have that in the store. We haven't had this in a while. They're like, "Oh, well, the next time we come back, I guess we'll be paying that tariff." And I was like, "Yeah, I know, man. It's going to be really rough." And they're like, "Yeah, but, this might be a good reset." And I was like, "Well, a bunch of the people my age, all their retirement accounts just got reset to zero. So I don't think it's actually a good thing at all." And they're like, "Oh, well, mortgage rates might go down." I was like, "Well, I've already got a house, so I'm not worried about that." They're like, "Well, you might be able to refinance." And I was like, "I'm worried about my retirement."
Mm-hmm.
Like, there are people who do not give a flying fuck about the people who live in this country, much less their own neighborhood. Why do you think anyone would care about what happens in Greenland? They just don't care. They're too fucking stupid to see the forest through the trees.
I disagree with you on that because I think once Medicare, not Medicare, but Social Security and Medicare, actually, and Medicaid.
Sundown's in 20 years. They're not going to give a shit.
Well, I think they will because this is my optimistic thought process that's going on right now.
I'm listening.
And I want to be as optimistic as I possibly can on this podcast.
Yeah. I give enough negative stuff, so please.
No, both of us do. I mean, this is bleak shit that we're talking about. But we are talking about a population that votes. They vote exponentially a lot higher than
any other group.
Our group, and even younger.
Yeah.
And so when you're talking about Doge coming through and cutting Social Security stuff, so I have an uncle that lives in Seattle who, and thankfully he lives in Seattle. He doesn't live out in the Midwest or in some really, really rural area where he has to drive an hour and a half or 2 hours to get to Social Security office. But they had already cut 2 or 3 people that weren't working. So it was, I think, 1 or 2 people that were, he waited basically, he's in his early 80s.
Oh, wow.
He waited for 4 hours. And he was already within the building and he had worked with this woman before and she was fantastic and did everything she could do, but she's really, really flustered because just the amount of work.
Yeah.
If you continue to fuck with old people's money and what they paid into and what they have been led to believe that, I've worked however many quarters of my life, there's going to be pushback.
Is it the right kind of pushback?
Yes.
You think so?
Yes.
You think they're going to go full socialist and be like, no, we need to like rip down the entire system and rebuild it so that it's beneficial for all of us? Or do you think they'll just go, well, I'm worried about like what's going to happen to me tomorrow because, you know, I don't have the right medication and I got to talk to this person on the phone. I don't know how to work my smartphone. So I need I need to be able to show up to an office where there are 15 people working and blah. Or do you think that they're just going to be like, you know what, actually, I'm more worried about like the next generation that's coming and I want them to be able to have clean drinking.
No,
fuck them.
No. I think because it's going to be if you're messing with their Social Security money that they need to live and they have to wait 4 to 5 hours to deal with issues, that's going to have a crazy impact on the next election.
Do you think they're going to give a shit about what like a Bernie Sanders has to say though?
No, but they're going to be extremely angry at the people that they voted in and
but
get rid of them.
But if you say, you think so?
Yes. I mean, that's my hope.
That's your optimism. I think
old people, oh, God.
Old people, they don't deserve to die.
Not yet. They need some Jacovorkian.
They might. If you want to die, you can reach out to us on Blue Sky. No, I'm kidding. No, if you do want to get into a depression hole, follow us on Blue Sky, though. I don't know, man. I hear you, and I want to believe in that level of optimism. I do. I have a hard time because I think
old people don't fuck around with their shit.
They don't, because they're selfish pieces of shit. And like, I'm not calling your uncle a piece of shit. I'm just saying like old people in general are only worried about what's happening tomorrow because they need to get to the doctor. That's it. They're not worried about a 17-year-old who is going to be dealing with the climate crisis that is going to eviscerate their future. They're not worried about that. They're not going to be voting like going like, oh, there's a progressive candidate who's actually worried about like a green economy and reshaping our government so that everyone has representation and that there are people who are in sport clubs who are being kicked out because they're trans or they're not worried about trans kids. They're not worried about this stuff.
You're going way too deep.
Again, maybe I am chicken littling it, but
no, but it's not even about that. Like, I think you're right. Like, yes, there's a lot of big issues on the table that need to be addressed. But I guess I'm looking at it in the Doge lens when it comes to the cutting of government agencies and what that's done.
Sure.
And the mandate that what's happened when we talked about in the beginning of the Supreme Court Justice of Wisconsin getting elected and kind of that mandate against Elon Musk, that there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be really, really furious, especially we didn't really talk that much about tariffs.
That's another episode.
And that's been this whole, I mean, this is how insane this time has been.
We can't keep up.
The stock market has crashed at its since Obama was president.
It's not been this bad since Trump was in office the last time.
Yeah, and we had a global pandemic. Yeah. And there's no fucking pandemic right now.
Well, no, there is. It's just not playing out the same scale it was before.
We have bird flu.
And Ebola. We don't know that because they took away
DI.
CDC's stupid folks. You don't need that where you're coming from and where you're going. It's to the grave, folks. That's it.
But I just think like, and hopefully this is this optimism that we can really, really ride on is that there's going to be these cutting of government agencies that are going to impact the people that vote, that are going to be really, really furious.
Yeah.
It definitely looks like what's happened to Tesla.
Economic pressure works. In the capitalist
does.
System, economic pressure works.
But we also look at the tariffs, and it's been 3 days since
it's going to be
those have been implemented, and
Yeah.
we don't know what's going to happen with that. And so we're going to move forward and just see kind of what happens. But I think that when things start to get bad for people, they're going to be really, really upset and blame those that are in this position that have put us in this position.
Yeah.
And you can only blame Joe Biden, Sleepy Joe, for a while until you can't blame Sleepy Joe anymore.
Yeah. Well, listeners, we want to thank you for enjoying another episode of At the Extremes. Do subscribe and share. It goes a long way. Reach out to us on Blue Sky. Check the show notes. And until next week.
Educate yourself, bro.